Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coaching Corner with me, Jamila, aka the IEP Coach. Come on in. For those of you who are new to the IEP Coach, I am again Jamila. I am the IEP Coach, and I'm the founder and CEO of the IEP Coach LLC. We are an education consulting company, and we specialize in providing professional development and coaching centered around special education like IEP case management, progress monitoring, transition planning, um, IEP meetings, effective co-teaching practices to SPED teams, teachers, and paraprofessionals so they can thrive and not just survive in their roles. And that's just a little bit about us at the IEP Coach, all right? And we go live every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about all things special education, all right? So come on in. As you are coming in, let us know where you are tuning in from. Drop it in the comments for us, okay? And we always do Q&A after we go over our content. So please drop your questions in the comment section. I know sometimes, you have a question, you hold it on to later, but go ahead and drop it in the comments now, and someone from my team will make sure that I see your question so that way I can answer it right here on the live. And before we go any further, make sure you share out this live. Make sure you share out this live with as many people as possible. And as I'm telling you to share it out, I'm sharing it out as well. All right. So tonight we are talking about that big ugly bill, aka the big beautiful bill, and what it means for special education and how you can arm yourself with what you need to do to fight back. Okay, because it's getting really ugly out here in these special education streets. All right. So go ahead and share out this live, and I hope everyone is staying cool in this heat because it is hot. My glasses is fogging up. It is hot, and I know some people is storming and everything, and prayers go out to everyone in Texas who was affected by the floods and the torrential rains that fell. Alrighty. Ooh, sorry about that, guys. All right. So, yeah, share it out. And like I said, as I'm telling you to share it out, I'm sharing it out as well. Alrighty. Yes, as soon as I got in the house, it just started to pour. So, happy I got in. Alrighty. All right, let's go ahead and jump on in. But before we do that, I want to remind you all about. All right, someone's tuning in from Delco. Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, just a reminder, our IEP Insider newsletter, a new edition drops every Wednesday. Just reminding you guys to subscribe so you are the first to know. Make sure you subscribe so you're the first to know when the edition drops. We do it every Wednesday, and that newsletter specifically giving strategies for SPED teachers and teams for SPED teachers to best support them in their roles, and for SPED administrators just administrators in a whole to best support our SPED teachers. All right, so don't forget, go ahead and subscribe. And if you are on Instagram, you can click the link in our bio to subscribe. And don't forget about our IEP cheat sheet. You have an IEP meeting you're about to jump into, and you just need to refresh yourself on the sections and things like that. Go ahead and download our IEP cheat sheets. Like, I can't talk this evening. All right. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So I know you all have been hearing about this big, beautiful bill, hearing about it in different news outlets, and the vote that they had to do and everything, and it was coming down to the wire. The president wanted to make sure it got signed by July 4th and all of that. So we're gonna just break it down I'm just gonna break it down for everybody how it specifically affects special education. Now, it impacts so much, so many people, so many things, so many programs, so much funding, but I'm just going to focus on, for the sake of this live tonight, I'm just going to focus on special education because we talk about all things special education. All right, so the big beautiful bill is basically changing how just changing how education is being funded. Okay, so it's supposed to change how education is being funded and how states are being held accountable for um, how they handle the education in their states. Okay, so basically that is what the part of this bill is doing in terms of education, changing how education is funded and how accountability of the various states are being handled. Okay. Now he calls it, our president calls it the big beautiful bill, but it's a very quite ugly bill. And the reason it's very ugly is because it is cutting millions and millions of dollars away from special education, from our most vulnerable population, our special education population. So by cutting millions and millions of dollars from special education, it affects early intervention, it affects early childhood education, it affects elementary, secondary, higher education, it affects everybody. It affects children with disabilities, it affects adults with disabilities, and those who are caring for them and taking care of them. So it affects them in a negative way, not in a beautiful, good way, in a ugly, negative way. So that's why we're calling this the ugly bill. All right. So you know what the ugly bill is? It's basically proposed bill to change how the funding of education is done and how the accountability is being handled amongst the different states. Okay, so we have that. Now, how does it impact special education teachers? How is it impacting our educators? So, how it impacts special education teachers is there is by money funding being tremendously cut from special education, there is a reduction in services. Okay, there will be a reduction in services, a reduction in the staffing, and related, like I said, related services. So that's your speech, that's your occupational therapy, that's your physical therapy, all those related services. There could be a reduction in those services and the staffing of those services, because that's how many districts could pay to hire those related service providers for their districts, or that's how a lot of schools could contract out these particular professionals to support the special education population with the areas of needs, whether it's speech, they may have executive functioning needs with writing, physical therapy, things like that. Okay, there is less individualized attention and a lot of program cuts. So after school programs are getting cut. The food programs that schools have, the money to fund that is being cut. So it is affecting students' nutrition as well. And long term, it can affect transition planning and transition services that are extremely important for our students once they reach the age of 14. There's a lot of programming that students can sign up for that they can benefit from to help them, that those programs will no longer be there because of this bill, because it is cutting so much funding from those programs. Okay, so think about it like this. By our president cutting so much funding, it is forcing schools to do a lot with less. And I know you already made me thinking schools are barely getting by with what they have. Now think about that. The funding that they got before is getting cut in half. Imagine that getting cut in half. And they really are going to be stretched thin. A lot of districts use the money from the government, from IDEA. They get specifically for special education, they get grants and funding to fund their special education services and programs, etc. That funding getting cut, they are forcing schools to do more with less. When you do more with less, that means you are truly, truly burning out your teachers, stretching them thin. So, with teachers, there's going to be, especially with this so called accountability, there may be more paperwork that they have to do on top of the paperwork that they already have to do. All right. So, as a special education teacher, you have a mountain of paperwork that you have to do. Mountain of paperwork. So, you're going to get more paperwork, stricter data tracking, and larger caseloads without extra help. Again, that's how schools could also they could also use the money they were getting from the special education money that they were receiving. They could get it to pay for additional support for their special education departments, for their special education programmings, etc. So that's additional staff members, SPED teachers, or instructional assistant, or paraprofessional. That money is no longer there. So you have less people, but there's that work that needs to be done is still there. There's still students still have to be serviced according to their IEP. They still have to get that service. And so with this accountability that they're talking about, changing accountability, it could be stricter data tracking practices that they have to do. So on top of the mountain of paperwork they have to do, they have even more paperwork that they're going to have to do. Okay. Now you may be wondering, okay, how does this affect the funding? So again, they are cutting millions and millions of dollars. So they're cutting the special education grants that that schools across the country would receive. They're cutting the programming as well. So in addition to the education funds, this big ugly bill also affects SNAP, which is the food program for low-income students and their families that they receive to make sure they can get food for their households so they can eat. That is getting cut. Medicaid is getting cut. A lot of families use Medicaid to pay for additional services for their children that have disabilities. So they use it to pay for the therapy. It could be ABA therapy. It could be speech therapy outside of the school. It could be occupational therapy outside of the school. They use Medicaid to pay for that, so that way they don't have to come out their own pockets to pay for it. Medicaid is how many individuals with disabilities, especially adults, can have health care. Also, you have college students who may not have any money. They may be homeless, and they are able to qualify for SNAP and Medicaid so they can have insurance, so that way they can get money for food. And this bill affects that because it cuts the millions, billions of dollars that was going to the SNAP program, that was going to Medicaid. Medicaid is like one of the third largest funding sources for special education. That is getting cut. So more families are going to have to come out of pocket for services and therapies for their children with disability, or for their adult children that have disabilities. Okay? So it's shifting money away from specialized programs. And that sucks. That's why this bill is really, really ugly. It is really ugly. And it's negatively impacting our special education population. Okay? Now, what about the students and families? So again, with the money being cut, that takes money out of the parents' household. The parents that have children with disabilities, that's taking the money that they didn't have to put out before. They're going to have to put out more money now. So that's more money leaving their house. That's money that could be spent on food to feed their families. Now they have to use it for these therapies that they didn't have to before, and services that they didn't have to before, assistive technology that they didn't have to before. And some of these programs may get cut, period. So in addition to just defunding it, we're just going to cut the program. Also, that people who make millions and millions of dollars can get tax breaks. And we are going to pay for it at the expense of our most vulnerable population, our children and young adults that have disabilities. Our education systems are going to pay for it. Now, you may be wondering, well, what can we do about this? One, contact your local representatives. Let them know how it is negative, how this bill is negatively impacting you, how it's going to negatively impact you. Continue to go to your children's IEP meetings and go to the school board meetings. See what your district is doing. See what money your district received. Ask questions. How is the special education program going to be supported and funded? Where's the money going for that? Ask questions and demand answers. Ask questions at these IEP meetings. The SPED director is there. They can give you answers to your questions. Join local advocacy groups in your city. And keep the conversation going. Also, go live and talk about your experience. Because they don't want us to communicate. But we have to. We have to communicate so we know how we can support each other. Okay? So, stay tuned because we will be dropping reels about this big ugly bill. There's so much that can be said, but we're breaking it up in reels so that way it's just easier to digest, okay? Because there is so much that is happening with this bill. Now, they're also going to be pushing the school choice with these vouchers. Parents, please don't be fooled by this. The voucher will only be a fraction of the cost of private school. Private school can cost anywhere from $25,000 or up. Your voucher could be up to $1,700. That is not going to pay your child's tuition at all. So please don't get fooled and say, oh my God, I'm going to send my child. Oh my God, they're going to pay for my child to go to private school. No, they're not. And don't forget, private schools, they're not obligated to accept students with special needs. And they will charge you extra for any extra support they will have to provide, or just not admit your child at all. Because they are not a public entity. And they don't get federally funded by the government. So they are not obligated to enroll students that have IEPs. Remember that. Okay? All right, let's look in the chat to see if we have any questions. And tell me, how are you feeling about this bill? How are you feeling about this bill? Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to give you a minute to jot down your questions. Any questions? Let me see. Any questions? All right. Does anybody have any questions about this big ugly bill? Or you may have a special education question. That is fine. You can put your question in the chat, in the comment section. Let me know any questions. All right. I'm going to give you another second to copy down to type your questions. Let me check our Instagram and see if we have any questions. All right. If a question comes to you later on, oh, thank you for your time today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Alter_mentality. If a question comes to you later on, feel free to send us a message. We are very responsive on our social media, across Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and on our YouTube page. And we're go live on LinkedIn. So feel free to send us a message there. And please remember to subscribe to our newsletter. The next edition will be dropping tomorrow, so you want to subscribe so that way you're the first to know when it drops, because we will be talking about this big ugly bill in further detail in the on the IEP in the IEP Insider. And also, don't forget, we have our IEP cheat sheet and our IEP in a nutshell free on-demand workshop. All of these resources are absolutely free. So please make sure that you take advantage. I am dropping them in the chat right now. Those of you who are on Instagram, you can click the link in the bio and register and access it right away. The IEP cheat sheet, you can download it right away. These resources are absolutely free. All right, and please remember, you got any questions, send us a message. We are very responsive, okay? And if you're watching this on a replay, put hashtag replay so I know you're watching this on a replay. And remember, please, please be kind to yourself. Keep yourself hydrated in this weather. Be safe. And we will see you all not next Tuesday. We won't have the coaching corner on July 15th, but the following Tuesday. We will see you all at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be safe, and we will see you all later. Have a good evening.